The head twitch response is being mediated through the 5-HT2A receptor.
5-HT2A is a subtype of serotonin receptor that plays an important role in the activity of classical psychedelics. When activity at 5-HT2A is blocked, genetically or pharmacologically, rodents no longer display the head twitch response. We're in Linville, near Whitbank, on our way to meet some Niobe dealers who are going to be cutting their product with antiretroviral drugs, supposedly. Whether or not this will actually take place is unclear, especially because they're using the word cook somewhat ambiguously, and I don't know what cooking really means in this context.
What does it mean?
As we approached the lair of the clandestine Niobe cooks, I prepared myself to finally understand the logic behind their strange recipe.
It's a lot of body, by the way.
How did you come upon this particular formula? How did you decide that all of these different ingredients would be useful in the final product?
Every nation did two parts to formulate. You see, when we are together, people with different ideas, we combine them, we come up with one big thing.
Though I had remained skeptical throughout my research, when I saw the ARV tablets on the table of the cutters, I was forced to confront the possibility that the stories were true.
The guy that came from Nigeria, he's the one who came with the formula.
Who do you think taught him?
He said he thought by his uncle. The uncle of his was working for another Chinese guy who was staying in Joburg.
These guys learn their recipes, and then when they have the recipe, that's their stock and trade. Because it's a secret, there's no Darwinian action to the idea. So they don't really understand how it's happening. They just learn somebody's taught them how to do this.
When you grind the vegetables, you don't touch it too much of it, just a little bit. Your body is here with me, but your mind will be on the other side of town, you see.
It's hard to tell what's actually having a pharmacological effect and how much of it's just tradition or folklore.
These pills, they give it a power to make you drunk. They store it at the clinics, at the hospital, and the suppliers.
Probably the antiretrovirals are a minor part of the orchestra there, just because it's available. Despite the fact that it's actually very expensive drug, it's around, people got access to it, so they toss that in this too as well.
And I see that you have 3 different antiretroviral drugs there. Do you think that one of them is better than the others?
It's just when you take this one and this one, you make a mixture, it becomes the power of this one.
After introducing a teaspoon of Ratax pellets and saturating the crushed powder with apple cider vinegar, the Niobe cooks wrapped the pink paste in aluminum foil and placed it in a microwave.
I think this is largely drug use born out of poverty and boredom. People are obviously experimenting with a lot of things until they get it right.
To avoid certain things, we took the foil out.
And so if you had a choice between pure heroin or the Niobe mixture that you make, which would you choose?
No, I would choose this one because it's a little bit better.
So if you use the pure opium tar from the poppy plant, you'd expect very bad stomach pains.
Yes.
But if you put rat poison into that tar, it actually makes the stomach pains less severe.
Yes. Not too much of it. Because we are cooking, this thing, it affects us more than the one who smoke. You see, my original body is not like this. My original color is not like this. When you see my photos before now, sometimes I cry.
And the journey continues.
So we make the assumptions that the studies that we do in animals will translate one-to-one into humans, and that may not be true. It may only be partly true. We never tried to simulate having the rats smoke the drug.
Because recreational users smoke efavirenz, the temperature could transform the chemical into an entirely different molecule. To test this hypothesis,
Mi reacción a esto es muy interesante.
to burn efavirenz under controlled conditions. For this experiment, they're going to use the entirety of the pill to try and simulate the exact conditions that the tablet is smoked in South Africa. Yeah, what's really cool is that this lab that I'm working at, we're building a machine that's like a machine that will smoke a tablet, and then we can collect all of the smoke and chemically analyze it to see how the drug has changed when it's burned. Kind of like a series of bombs that you use for smoking weed, all connected to one another with a vacuum on one side and a pipe on the other, and then you're able to just take out the water and analyze what's in it. Our hypothesis was correct. When heated under certain conditions, efavirenz is transformed into an entirely different molecule, the pharmacology of which is unknown. The activity of the drug once consumed orally is just beginning to understand.
I mean, you have to imagine there are literally thousands of targets for drugs in your body. I would venture to say that most drugs are interacting on more than one target. We would certainly hope to develop drugs that wouldn't have some of the side effect profiles that we currently see, and that might also, we believe, we could probably simultaneously engineer out any abuse potential, for example.
I would argue that the South Africa adherence to antiretroviral drugs is actually quite high, and I think that the bizarre images can very vivid things.
Voy a cambiar de tipí. Hay mucho que hacer en la casa. Es muchísimo que hay que hacer en la casa.
Like the tingly stuff and the anti-dandruff shampoo or whatever. Something that people, whether it has any actual effect on the condition or not, but actually lets people know, okay, you're experiencing a medical or pharmacological effect now.
In other words, you're up to your eyeballs and tripping balls.
Doesn't have any psychoactive properties anymore.
Sure. Yeah, I haven't seen any controlled studies done on that, so I'd have to evaluate that data in terms of compliance.
Alright, I think the mice discriminated the stimulus correctly. A whole new world just opened up. A whole new pharmacophore, a whole new scaffold. This could be a completely new base structure to make new psychedelics. It could be an entirely new class.
Everything improves, you know. The computer started being a big computer. Now we carry it, it's a laptop. The next time it won't be a laptop, it's just a wash. You know, everything changes.
Efavirenz is psychedelic. At the beginning of the piece, I said that you had to take the drug in order to understand it, and that's what psychopharmacology is all about, which is a little bit of an oversimplification, but it's true that there are certain questions in psychopharmacology that can't be effectively answered by a rodent. I hadn't seen anyone write, I've taken it, it is psychedelic. It's comparable to LSD. Nothing like that existed, and for that reason I wanted to take it, and for that reason it was useful to take it, because I answered my question. It is classically psychedelic. That said, it's not pleasant at all. Although the acute effects are somewhat enjoyable and comparable to mescaline, I was bedridden and totally incapacitated for almost 2 days afterwards. So this is something I've actually been very conflicted about reporting on. On one hand, I understand and feel a responsibility for conveying accurate information about this substance. But the possibility that anyone would divert this drug away from its intended medical purpose is actually very frightening. It is psychedelic, but so are lots of other things that are more potent, less expensive, and less toxic and dangerous to use at high doses. As rotovaps purr and indazole
Es un maratón
stir,
de.
I
Es
came
un
across a
maratón
man
de.
who's a unique
¿Vais?
entrepreneur.
Del.
The
Hamilton
man in a
Pharmaton, porque se me
mask,
antojó.
banging his head to a beat, has
Ponerlo, está
traveled
muy
to
bueno.
China to accomplish a feat.
Hoy tengo calabozos y
As
dragones.
fumaroles bubble and mud baths steam, I gaze upon a music video from behind the
Voy a
scenes.
ocuparme de esto. Pero.
Not too many
todo su
close-ups
tiempo,
on the
¿no?
hands because I can't play this.
Tiempo para
too
todo. Acabo de
fucking hard.
terminar un proyecto y es momento de divertirse un poco. Divertirse. Relajarme.
Health officials are investigating synthetic designer drugs that are flooding into the United States. Law enforcement, though, is having a tough time just keeping ahead of the chemistry involved.
But New Zealand has taken a radically different approach.
New Zealand became the first country in the world to establish a regulated licensed market for new psychoactive drugs.
The men behind these crafty alternatives have become a new breed of drug lord.
His detractors might call him a drug baron, and Matt Bowden has made a small fortune selling drugs. But what he's done is closer to starting his own version of a pharmaceutical company in New Zealand. But unlike any known pharmaceutical company, his drugs aren't intended to treat disease, but rather to free users from the chains of prohibition.
I'm just offering an alternative for people from a different culture. I'm not actually promoting drug use, I'm promoting safer policy. Together, we can end the war on drugs.
Matt Bowden invited me to tour his cannabinoid lab in New Zealand, but I soon found he had more than that in store.
Welcome to New Zealand. Would you like to get off your chain? Okay. Do you want to go use the bathroom or something?
Esta noche es Critical Role.
We've been here for about a
Critical
year and a half
Role
now.
es esta noche.
What we are doing is deliberately going out of our way to screen a lot of different molecules and find the ones which are demonstrably safer alternatives to drugs which are currently hurting people. Ideally, I'd like to make a living out of something else, my music or my clothing, and set this up so the pharmaceutical company sits in a charity. The money in the local community goes back to providing treatment and addiction interruption solutions for people that need it, and as well as food banks, and research into further safer alternatives, particularly from nature.
Bowden started his career as a guitar teacher, but saw the way drugs sold on the black market had ravaged his friends and family, and found his calling in the reformation of New Zealand's drug policy. His idea was simple: elevate the drugs that are used non-medically for inducing euphoria and relaxation to the same standard as pharmaceutical therapies.
But what really cemented my involvement was having my third cousin die, took too much MDMA, and then another friend commit suicide with a samurai sword on methamphetamine. And those are the two events in my life that have been like pillars, that realization that when someone's gone, there's nothing you can do to bring them back. I thought I've just got to go back to playing rock music, making some albums and performing. And if I'm more true to myself, then my message will resonate better with people. Steampunk organ.
These are all props from your shows?
Yeah, and from the movie. You've really got to watch the movie, Starboy Eternity. It's on iTunes.
Okay.
This is our clothing label. We first started out, I guess, just buying crazy clothes because I feel like you need to kind of express who you are on the inside, on the outside. This is a psychedelic steampunk Roman-inspired piece, and if someone shoots you with an arrow, there's a good chance that this will protect you against that type of damage.
Can we see some more of the costumes?
Yeah. See if this fits you. Check this out. This is cool. So this one is what's the guy's name? This is a whole new look for Hamilton, I think. It's great for on the stage. You know, you can just be glitzy glammy. You can just be like a star that fell from the sky. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, check that out.
Okay.
Yeah, it's real smooth. See?
Smoke?
How did you choose the
Want to eat that
steampunk aesthetic?
afterwards?
I wanted to be in that age of enlightenment, the 1890s. Starboy is an alchemist, and he's been providing a solution, and the townspeople kind of run him out of town because I think he's caused a problem and brought down these aliens when really he was a little misunderstood. I guess that's kind of how I felt. So this is the live room. We've got some guitars and bits and pieces. This used to be a big old drug factory.
New Zealand's Psychoactive Substances Act was one of the most progressive pieces of drug legislation in history. But the market's growth outpaced regulators, and a drug approval process was implemented that cast Bowden's company and its products into a legal gray area.
We want to send a very strong message that we don't think there's any place for these drugs, and we believe they should be taken off the marketplace.
The new law creating the prohibition on these drugs will be in place by the end of the week.
Because synthetic cannabinoids were under temporary ban, we went to downtown Auckland to see how the head shops were tolerating the loss of their most popular products.
Dan is always
A lot of
always
retailers
about
are
money.
quite nervous about, they're prepared to bend, but they don't want to break the law right now because they're conscious that they still have to pass the good behaviour test when they do apply for a full licence under a regulated
Usually
market.
the guys they
A lot of the retailers did
the
extremely well during that interim period where we had a regulated market,
majority.
and they are hopeful that those days will come back again.
And it seems that as soon as you eliminate something where there's already a trade in it, where there's already an economy surrounding the sale and purchase of an item, prohibition will not work anymore. So I think that's why I hear these reports of the blend still being sold. But maybe New Zealand is small enough that it's easier to keep those things in check.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, it's a great test market, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, no doubt you'll probably have the opportunity to try some of these products and just test for yourself.
You hold it back down here, and you just draw obviously from here. It's how I'm trying, so it vaporizes this liquid. Yes. Yeah.
Oh wow, and it's in there?
Yeah, it's in there, yeah.
Okay.
So it's a cannabis type bag.
That's a store.
It's very safe. This has had toxicology done.
It's just a very, very pleasant high. It's non-invasive. It's discreet, and it's very, very safe.
Yeah, wow, I'm already very stoned.
Yeah, just one more, yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Amazing.
Yes.
So this is
Can I have a go?
Oh, absolutely, yes. What is the duration of that?
This isn't going to last long. You have to keep dosing.
Okay.
But I reckon about 10-15 minutes.
Just 10 minutes for the whole high?
It's very subjective. And I think
So it's 10
for you
minutes,
and
but it
I,
can feel like days.
no, I don't think it's going to feel like days.
I feel a strong tingling in my crown chakra. I feel a lot of kundalini vibrations. With N-cumyl-1,5-fluoropentyl indazole 3-carboxamide coursing through my veins, I reflected on how odd it was for a representative of the legal high industry to offer me such a cannabinoid on camera. Was the drug legal or illegal? I couldn't be sure, so I went to visit New Zealand's Health Minister Peter Dunn to find out.
The issue began in New Zealand about 3 years earlier, and at that stage we were faced with this whole raft of new products coming onto the shelves, completely untested, unregulated, being sold through corner stores, no controls on age or promotions, etc. A lot of people saw the legal cannabinoids when they came along as providing an alternative initially to the real thing and enabling them to indulge their passion, if you like, much more safely. We decided to introduce legislation that would shift the onus of proof to manufacturers or suppliers to be able to satisfy a testing regime equivalent to that we would have for new medicines, that the products were low risk. We allowed an interim regime because there were a number of products that hitherto hadn't been seen as problematic, and we expected the new testing regime to follow. Unfortunately, this is where we made a mistake.
And then everybody
That
goes
few
nuts
weeks
and they make it all
is
illegal.
now over a year later, and we still haven't been able to finalise.
When regulators dragged their feet, the black market re-emerged.
Despite lawmakers banning more and more of the chemicals used to make the drugs, drug makers simply tweak the ingredients and produce a legal substance.
And its roots could be traced to the manufacturing hub of Shanghai, China, a city filled with skilled chemists eager to satisfy the requests of international buyers. All my life, I've dreamed of visiting the great cannabinoid laboratories of Shanghai.
Me too.
But as a journalist, I knew my chances were slim. Then it occurred to me, what if I went to tour the labs not as a journalist or researcher, but as a filmmaker, working with Matt to produce a steampunk rock opera? We managed to get into this lab by coming in with Matt Bowden, who has poured millions of dollars into the cannabinoid industry, and as a result, they are so grateful in China for his money that they've allowed us to come in and film and really do whatever we want inside this lab. Entering the cannabinoid crystallization chamber was the realization of a lifelong fantasy. They're working on drying out the final step in a new synthetic compound that they've manufactured. This seems to be a synthetic cannabinoid. Even if this lab were to be stopped, it's done in hundreds of thousands of other labs in China, and another one will always pick up the slack. There's just too much money in it. To Matt Bowden, the sound of crystal hammers pulverizing cylinders of dimethyl acetylsuccinate is simply the percussive accompaniment to his cannabinoid opera.
And power.
The voice that you hear in the background is not the sound of synthetic cannabinoid chemists, but rather Matt Bowden warming up his voice before stepping in front of the camera for his steampunk cameo in this rock opera. You ready?
I'm ready, yeah. Let's try this little bit of vocal warm-up so I don't break my voice if I start shouting in there.
How do you know these people that own this laboratory?
I've been working at this for 15 years now and built up lots of relationships with different people, developing different compounds and manufacturing. And as you can see, moving up from the small scale where you're just making sure that you've got your recipes right up to larger scale. When you go to commercial production, you need to produce hundreds of kilograms of something. That's when we go to places like this. So.
It's pretty impressive.
All right, go for it.
Okay, rolling.
Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Slow. Stop. All right, we're gonna try that again.
And then take one step backwards. 2 steps if you can.
The message of the song is that when you do make a stand for the things that you believe in, the system will try to crush you. Basically, there's no time to apologize when you're in their sights and the sky is falling, which is kind of what happened to me right after I wrote the song. So I've got a lot of energy to communicate these basic issues of freedom. are the bad guys, and so they represent the system that seeks to control and homologate and completely anaesthetize us. Love is your freedom. Sweet. Oh, cool. Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
Again, it's just me sitting here facing the camera. Nobody really watching.
We've had a game of Dungeons and Dragons here with the kids. It's all good encouragement to develop our imaginations. Yeah, so this spot is our lighthouse. We grabbed the spot and we were looking at building a rehab or a retreat here. But now with the pressure that's come on us all of a sudden, they really want to sort of rip my business apart. And so we're going to have to sell a bunch of assets just to survive. So we're going to have to sell this place off, which is a horrible shame. But it's been a pretty tough year, just to tell the truth.
So the zero is actually quite alright. It's quite good.
Do you think that in 3 years that all this will be reversed? They'll be able to buy back the lighthouse?
Yeah, I think we are still carrying on with our research because it's important that we have safer alternatives so that future generations are not using dangerous drugs like methamphetamine, alcohol, heroin. Instead, they've got safer alternatives which are non-addictive, they don't cause brain damage, they don't cause organ damage, and they don't kill you if you have too much. So I'm carrying on. We're still doing our research and we're still doing our safety testing in labs around the world. And eventually, I believe we'll have some safer alternatives that we can test in New Zealand and then use all around the planet.
Even if New Zealand can't hear the whistle of Bowden's steampunk locomotive, Matt chooses to be free.
Paradise.
Be free. Be free.
Hello.
Hello. Good to see you.
What is freedom?
Too.
I've missed you. What have you been up to?
I'm living in exile now. I had to leave my country or they wanted to put me in jail. Right after I started talking about if we could develop an alternative to alcohol. It took about 2 weeks and my life was basically over. It was amazing. So hanging out and
what happened?
The alcohol industry went to the Prime Minister basically and he put pressure on them and they sort of publicly asset stripped me. And when I went to try to offer them some money to settle, normally they say yes, but the woman at the meeting said, we don't give a fuck about money, we want to see you in jail. And so I said, okay, cool, and moved out of the country because I didn't have a home anymore.
Man, I'm sorry to hear that.
Hey, it's rock and roll, man. I got pretty depressed for a few months there. It was pretty tough, particularly the children being ripped out of their home and forced to leave their country, their friends and their school. You got to sort of work through that, but it was never really about making money for me. It's always just been a bit of a vocation and a mission, if you like. And just coming back to family and health, being together, that's kind of what's important. These are the good things in life, The rest of it doesn't really matter.
Oh, man.
But it's good. We're happy,
That's great.
Yeah. I think that you would be very interested in the tryptamine analogs that have come out recently.
Oh, yeah. Maybe send a few my way. If they're uncontrolled in the United States, I can help you out with the testing.
That's a great idea. Yeah, let's do that. Okay. I'll get you some diagrams and you can check them against your laws.
Okay. All right, that sounds good.
Yeah, man, and that was a mad time. When you guys came down and we went to China, that was just such a good time. I really appreciated that.
I agree. Cool. I appreciated it.
Okay, thanks, Hamilton. Ciao.
I should take chemistry, man. I should take like a formal chemistry class. See what I'm missing, because I'm a good sophomore chemist, but that's about it. mean, what jungle plants?
We're on the side of a mountain, and there's about thousands of marijuana plants around us.
Colombia.
This is like 2-3 hectares, like 20-30,000 plants, and then you know that you're gonna find a champion there if you look long enough. It's a massive field, full of pots.
Weedy cat. Kings of cannabis.
Roscom is, but you've probably smoked his weed. Since 1985, Arjen's been producing some of the most well-known strains of marijuana out of Amsterdam. We joined up with him and his crew in Colombia to look for 3 rare marijuana strains. So after about a few hours of sleep, we're headed to Cali to check out the biggest weed operation in Colombia.
Okay, let's rock and roll.
Biggest weed operation in Colombia.
First stop, the massive grow operation of local legend El Gato, Arjen's key Colombian contact. He'd be our guide throughout the trip.
So here we got guerrilla style growing, guys, in the mountains of the farm. Look here.
Colombia produces the most cocaine in the world, but it's also one of the most fertile places on earth to grow cannabis. And while the country allows for recreational amounts of marijuana, growing weed on an industrial scale remains highly illegal.
If you look at the plants, they're all moving. You feel a little breeze going through. Not too much, but just enough to make them strong and make sure there's no stealth air around the buds. This is the biggest in Colombia. It's maybe the biggest, it's probably maybe the biggest in South America. Well, in Paraguay, you also have really big ones.
Not like this.
But not like this and not this kind of quality.
In 1992, Arjen opened his first coffee shop in Amsterdam, and has since crafted his marijuana breeding skills into a market-savvy empire known as Greenhouse Seed Company. He's won 38 cannabis cups. He's even dubbed himself the King of Cannabis.
We thought maybe if we create a King of Cannabis, maybe all the rappers will come, maybe famous artists will come. They will spread the word for us.
Congratulate the King of the Cannabis. Salute.
These days, he's often found in Amsterdam, and when he's not there, he's strain hunting, scouring the entire world looking for rare, untouched marijuana strains, better known as land races.
We are the guys who travel all around the world. We see where the good stuff is, and we try to bring back the knowledge that we gain here. We are the only guys who go really into the bush and really to the danger areas.
With authentic seeds in hand, he brings them back to the lab in Amsterdam to develop new varieties of marijuana.
Okay? And they're
His
still
company's
killing
bringing
people
millions
in
of dollars a year.
Afghanistan and Mexico. And for what?
Here you see a grow room that's done with a minimal amount of money, but into the perfection. So this is the most healthy way of growing marijuana,
Yeah, they do that.
preserving nature, and in the end, smoking the product. Yeah, because it's so perfect. How many plants? 8,000.
8,000.
How many kilos?
2 tons, 4,000 pounds.
Every crop or every year?
Every crop.
4,000 pounds.
Yeah,
so let's say 2,000 kilos.
Yes.
So that's 6,000 kilos, 6 tons a year.
Yeah.
All right, so the boys are sort of gathering around these plants to do little shoot for their marketing initiatives. They have fertilizer, apparently, that they try to sell to people. But this is sort of businessman Arjen at work again.
The bags are in good height. Our faces are good visible.
Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah, mate.
As marijuana becomes legal in more and more countries around the world, Arjen Roscom has set himself up to be the first billionaire of bud.
They're resin on them already. It's 3 weeks away from being harvested. Incredible.
Arjen's business partner, head breeder, is Franco Loya, a paratrooper in the Italian military turned grower.
I used to be perceived as a criminal when I was in Italy. Now I'm a guy that has 50,000 fans on Facebook and people ask me for autographs and want to take pictures with me.
The beauty of cannabis, the power of cannabis, it's its variety. It's the fact that there are so many flavors, so many effects, medicinal and recreational. It's a plant, but it's not one plant, it's thousands of plants.
Now as we look, we are in a great plantation, but it's still very illegal.
Right.
You know what the people are doing here, and they're all jeopardizing their life and prison and everything, you know.
Aquí estaba cayendo botritis, vea. Y hoy fumigué con asperse con serotol. Y vea cómo se quema de una vez.
Spray Serotol? The people who are in this operation lost their father, their brothers. So this gives you just an idea how rough the past was. And now they're marijuana growers. That's the greatest thing on earth. They go from the gorilla to growing marijuana. What else you want to have on this planet?
Nothing more. Well, toad venom was good.
That's not dirt he's scooping up. You're looking at dried resin, soon to be hash.
También este mordito hay más de 1 kilo. Hasta la mano.
And it's totally sealed. You see no air inside, so there's no possibilities for it to get bad. It just gets better with the time.
Yes, man. That's
On this particular expedition, the guide was on to hunt for 3 legendary land races: Limon Verde, Punta Roja, and Colombian Gold. Since it was too dangerous to stay at the grow-op, we would start hunting for the Limon Verde the next morning. Then we got stuck.
36 minutes.
Our truck is
no
stuck.
comments other than
We're gonna push it out.
So I guess I'm having the actual
We had heard horror stories about what happens in the southern jungles of Colombia at night, and Gato told us that FARC guerrillas abducted a French journalist last year, and that this June an American was stabbed to death by bandits on the road. We knew we had to get the hell out of there.
So we can't fucking move the truck. We moved it about 5 meters or so, but then it's stuck again. We've been putting a bunch of vegetation and shit under the wheels, and it's moved, but it's not gonna work. This is fucking tough. It's muddy out here. Man, I don't think this truck's gonna move tonight.
Stuck in the jungle. Dark, dark, dark. 9 o'clock.
Colombia's landrace genetics have been on Aryan's wish list for years, but up until now it's been far too dangerous to venture deep into the jungle. The last 50 years have seen a brutal internal conflict between a slew of armed factions allied with different political ideologies. It's all kind of confusing, but when it comes down to it, it's a war over who controls the drug trade. Though it's gotten better, things are still really bad. After finally getting our truck out of the mud, we woke up the next morning to startling news. The guerrilla's second-in-command was killed yesterday in a bloody shootout.
Here's the body bags. This is the area we are in right now. This is the guy. There'll be some extra tension today because one of the big leaders has passed away.
Our plan was to go back to Gato's place and then head further into the mountains to find the Limon Verde. We were smoking weed the whole ride up. Every time we hit a military checkpoint, I was sure we were fucked. Unfazed, Gato disarmed each situation.
Because my 2 brothers get killed in the last 3 years by some fuckers in Medellin. They kill my family and control the business now here in Colombia, but just because they're bandits.
Even still, he's intensely passionate about weed and weed culture.
We're just doing our thing because it's our fucking mission in life, and we're happy to do it, and it's not a matter of why.
Bandits kill people for money. Real money isn't killing.
So we're going to try to make a new attempt today to speak to the leaders because we need permission for them
money to kill
people. Go around here in these mountains, otherwise we're going to get kidnapped and have a big problem. So
the higher the people that kill.
And instead of us going up in the mountains there, they know where they're hanging out. I think they just made a last moment to show. They probably knew already yesterday to surprise us. Is it a good sign? Yeah, it's very good.
With tension so high, we couldn't just blaze through guerrilla-controlled territory without getting permission first. But the leaders didn't want to be on camera.
Bueno, he's saying the guy's really close to.
Okay, guys, take your bags and go to the bed.
Yeah, guys.
Yeah.
The leaders granted us permission, but before we could freely hunt in their territory, they would need 4 days to verify Aryan's legitimacy and let everyone in the area know what we were doing. So Aryan decided that we would suspend our search for Limon Verde and head north to the city of Santa Marta to look for the other 2 land races we were after, Punta Roja and Colombian Gold. Santa Marta is a city literally built on weed. In the 60s and 70s, tons and tons of Colombian gold were exported north through the Caribbean to the US. Hundreds of peasant farmers became drug lords overnight.
We are after 2 of the most famous land races in cannabis history, Colombia and Santa Marta Gold. And then there's a high altitude strain called Punta Rojo, which means red dot.
Every day is a great day. So be fucking politician, man. We're going to scout land races up from the air, and then later we can go with the cars, we can go into the areas and to find the fields back with the coordinates we have on our GPS.
No other seed company acquire land races the way we do. No.
Everybody says to us, yeah, in the north there's not so much marijuana anymore, but yeah, everywhere you go it grows, you know. It's like a green avalanche, it's unstoppable.
It's a complex mix between laboratory science and real field work. And that's why when the big corporations get interested in marijuana, they can't do it alone.
With the info obtained from the chopper ride, we headed into the Sierra Nevada mountains. Gato's connections would take it from there.
This is the area of Colombia where the whole marijuana trade started back in the 1970s. The people produced enormous amount of money by exporting large quantities of land race. They basically built the city, Santa Marta, out of cannabis money.
El contrato aquí.
Bandido. Representa Chichi. Necesita bueno.
Claro. Esta, mira, esta 3 veces campeón del mundo.
Cambio de semillas de nosotros, de iBreak, con semillas de nosotros de
Un fetiche estalítico.
Claro, tú donde tú conoces que podemos buscar lo más viejo, lo más original.
Calcetines, pantaletitas vacías. What do I do with it? Throw it away?
The field was full of Colombian gold. Punta Roja, however, was much more difficult to find.
This looks really like the original. You see the red already in the hairs, original Punta Rojo marking.
And it's a little more
and you see it's more mature. There are seeds inside. See how sativa the leaf is, no overlapping whatsoever. Extremely long leaflets, spaced in between the leaflets. You can read a newspaper through this leaf. It's like, you know, I think we can look, we can dig. I think we can dig, wait a second. We can dig for some beans here. Let's dig for some beans. I feel it, but it's young. It's not, no, this is not mature. Let's look lower in the plant, because usually when it gets pollen, it gets earlier in the stage. Here we go. Here we go. Please be brown, please be brown. Yes, it's brown enough. Nice. It's not really mature. It could be a couple of weeks older to be considered a very good seed, but it's mature enough to germinate. This is the original landrace material that I can
breed that I can store in my library, that I can use to create new genetics that are going to win cannabis cups, that are going to make people rich, that are going to put people in jail, that are going to change destinies and lives.
Why put people in jail, mister? No fucking jail. What are you talking about jail for, man?
We got seeds, man.
Nothing to do with jail.
Yeah, this is a really good plan. Let's collect all the stuff here.
Man, we keep this. See, organizing it.
You think you're organized? What kind of pussy bags are you? Look here. This is a bag. We seal them.
Then what do you do?
Oh my balls. That's how prestige they are, you know? We're going to keep them here.
So we try to retrieve the highest number of seeds possible.
We have a big factory. We have a factory with 800 lights. This is where we bring our seeds back from different countries.
We plant a large number of seeds, 10, maybe 20,000 seeds, and then we select maybe 5, maybe 10 really good individuals.
How do you get the seeds back?
By sending them in the mail, if it's possible, because they're small, they don't contain any THC. If you clean them properly from the green materials, right, they don't smell, dogs don't even smell them.
It's legal. It's technically legal.
In Holland, yes. So when we land in Holland with the seeds, nobody cares. It's only about leaving the country where you are with the seeds. It can be an issue. Our life is 1 foot legal, 1 foot illegal. That's with juggle on this fucking razor blade all our life. Bro. That's what we do.
En Colombia, mejor marihuana, mejor cocaína.
I don't understand why governments repress this product so much. It's completely ridiculous. There's absolutely no way.
The answer is money.
This is
He
a
does
normal
know.
way of doing
It's
things.
about money.
If this plant will be
It's about
legal,
control of the flow
many
of money
Koreans
and
and other people would not have money to finance war against farmers or other people.
artificially
And the tobacco industry wouldn't have such a big feat in the world.
make the value of the product larger.
Business and
You
marijuana
control
is
it,
like a big
and you
fuck
can't
you
get
to
it
big
to people.
corporations.
People need it. People
This
want
is
it.
exactly the problem of why it's illegal.
People nuts with it. Good shit. People want to buy it anyways, you know.
Everyone seems to be pretty fucking excited. It was amazing to hear what Franco had to say. Clearly knows what he's talking about, and this is what they've come here for. And if they're innovating business from this kind of R&D, it sounds like a kind of win-win situation. Or at least I'm having a good time.
You know what it's really about? Education. Because the farmers know their shit. I mean, these cats know their shit. Man. Educate people about the benefits of these things. And,
The library gets richer and richer, Aryan. Our competitors dream of what we have. Dream. It's gonna be embarrassing soon.
yeah, I agree.
After 5 days without a break and with 2 of the 3 land races in the bag, Aryan decided to
Gotta
take the day
educate
off.
people about good drugs, guys.
We work really hard, but we also like to have a
It's basic, you know.
time. Bud growers and enjoying our smoke. After a few years, we figured out that we're not the only ones. There's 2 billion more people that enjoy this smoke. In the 80s, we jumped on this wagon, and the wagon became a train. The train became an airplane, and the airplane's flying really fast and really high.
We can't talk bad about the poor because we come from there, and we can't talk bad about the rich because we are going there.
Aryan is a polarizing
Smart
figure
guy.
in the weed growing community. While he has millions of followers on social media and his businesses thrive, weed growing forums around the web attack the quality of his seeds.
Yeah, I can't believe Greenhouse won. As far as their weed, not even close to being the best at all. We don't get my popularity.
While others just find his bravado off-putting.
You know, if you're tripping, I think you might be a little bit of denial.
But the biggest issue centers around the White Widow strain and a man named Shantu Baba. The two split in 1998 and have since argued over who, in fact, created the strain. With a lack of legal structure to settle a dispute, it's now purely a clash of inflated personalities.
It's a group of people who don't like us. It's all kinds of people who fight us.
Aryan's an easy target, but it doesn't seem to slow him down.
Holland we say, as long as the people speak about you, everything is good. You should worry when they don't speak about you anymore. Then you have a really big problem.
See, you see, Jackson? Fresher impossible, man. This is the freshest you can get.
If we can live our dream, if you can live your hobby, if you can make from your hobby your work, it's the best satisfaction you can have in life.
This is how we do.
So we have permission now from local leaders to go back to Cali to check out the Limon Verde. We're going to go back to the airport, fly to Bogota, then from Bogota to Cali, then a 3-hour drive up into the mountains and a hike to finally find the Limon Verde.
I'm going back to Cali.
¿Qué anda filmando? Vale.
The moment we approached the field, you heard the gunshots on the other side of the mountain. So it just wakes you up, you know, we are a bunch of smokers. At the same time, we know we're doing something technically very stupid. I have never failed, I have to say, finding something. And I said to everybody, guys, we're going to conquer these mountains.
As soon as we got there, Franco spotted a newly harvested pile of the Limon Verde, which we learned is also known as mango viche.
Very citrusy. This is an emergency of the way of cleaning seeds really quickly.
Mangovice.
No, this you can't mix with.
So you just found these at someone's house on the road,
Yeah.
on the road, right?
It's mainly like organic roadkill.
Yeah.
In some countries, also in Colombia, but especially in Thailand, there's so much inbreeding now. There's a lot of hermaphrodism, and that's the thing we don't want in our plants. But it would be very helpful if in the lab already we can determine if these genes are appearing in these plants before we start working with them. It would save a lot of time and effort. This is a once in 100 years that you drive in an area and you see a bunch of plants and you pick one out, you know, like you must be really lucky.
Wow, man, different flowering stages. Wow, this is exciting, dude. This is exciting. Wow, colors. This is the real colors. And the size of the field here, you can see, it's at least 3,000 plants, 4,000 plants in total.
Wow, this is more than a hectare, huh?
It's 6,000-7,000 plants for sure. This work is priceless. This work constitutes what is called cannabis culture. That is the real treasure, I think.
Like all these buds, you can see this is one line.
Already, yeah, coming out.
Yeah. So
It's articulated itself.
it's really important to just have a look at all the plants that are in the field. You keep pushing, and sometimes you push too hard, and then everything turns. We fly to the north of the country, we come back, and then it all turns out to be completely perfect.
So we've definitely found the Limon Verde. It seems like we found a whole bunch of other stuff, and we're on the side of a mountain, and there's about thousands of marijuana plants around us. I guess we're gonna keep searching for something better.
You don't know how to climb. Man, you can imagine this.
Land raising.
This is land raising. Fuck, you can tell. The roof was massive field. There is like hectares full of pot.
Wow.
Unbelievable. This is like 2-3 hectares, like 20,000-30,000 plants. And then you know that you're gonna find a champion there if you look long enough. Okay. Hold up if you hear me.
I got the hookah.
So, I guess I should comment on the social
All this much growing on you will bear the penultimate moment of our
economic
Let the remote here we come. Original
consequences
in Colombia.
of the prohibition of marijuana in
2058
places like
liters
Colombia,
should have
where
a
it grows
full of
like that.
pot.
It gives the weapons manufacturers
very
the
important
perfect
ingredients, real pure land races.
because the real
There were
objective
moments where I
here
suspected that strain hunting was
is
some
not to
elaborate
get
marketing
people
scheme,
high,
devised by Aryan to
kill
literally
them.
spread his seed and show the world how daring he is. But by the end of
And
our trip,
that's
I had a guarded
because
respect
there's
for him
more
and
money
his
in
lofty
killing
ambitions.
people
When it
than in
becomes
getting
an
them high.
industry, it's because there are serious business people like Aryan that can make an impact.
Alright guys, that's
Before
the
that,
show.
it's just a bunch of
1
people
hour.
getting high.
1 hour of bullshit. Dungeons and Dragons tonight. Stay up for it.
Maybe we'll do 20.
Legalization is changing the weed industry. New laws and more permissive laws are